Good evening and welcome back to NBC News. Today I'm here with the Attorney General of the United States, Mr. Saper J14. Thank you so much for coming on the show with us.
No problem.
So I'm going to ask you a few questions, if that's all right with you.
Well, that is the point of an interview, isn't it?
Quite. All right. Let's begin. Um, Recently, as you know, a new FBI director has been taken place. On your appointment, you pretty much controlled. You got it. What are your thoughts on him? Why do you think he's the best candidate for the job?
Well, the now director of the FBI has experience being personally involved in, for example, the Criminal Investigations Division, and he was a deputy director for a while there under the former FBI director. And he has the confidence in myself and the former FBI director, and he's already has the recognition of being a member of the High Command. It's only the most fitting placement.
All right. How do you believe the FBI is doing recruitment wise, and is there anything that you believe should change about it?
I must confess. See, okay, how do I explain this? My job as Attorney General is to oversee the Metropolitan Police Department and the Federal Bureau of Investigations. Yes. However, I don't oversee every aspect of the two agencies. Keep in mind, I have no experience in the FBI and MPD personally, so it would make no sense to me being the day-to-day operations of two agencies. So
Mm-hmm.
I leave the matters of the recruitment policies and whatnot to the FBI director and whoever he delegates, since I defer to their judgment on their matters, unless it becomes critical then I need to step in. But I tend to, as a general policy, leave FBI and MPD to be somewhat autonomous.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Noted. Let's move on to when does the president had made it very clear he likes to be very transparent and open with the press, as you are right now. Again, we thank you for that. But is there any situations, any time you plan on having a press briefing hosted for DOJ?
Well, first, I like to say that while I appreciate the comment, I'm not very open to the press. I mean, in comparison to the past attorney generals, absolutely, since most of them didn't make public memos about a lot of things, which are basically the equivalent of a brief of a briefing at this point. But the general tendency within the DOJ, well, as attorney general within the DOJ, is to keep media out. Well, not really media out, but information in, generally speaking, since prosecution information and investigation agent information could lead to tipping our hand. That, and in the past, you didn't really have a large, vibrant media presence like we have emerging media presence now. So, and let's see, what was the second part of the question again?
Second part of
What
the
was it?
question is, do you ever plan on hosting press briefings?
I had the thought of doing them, but it's not really. But in the end, it's really not much to go to do. I mean, it's not really much material to go with. I mean, consider like you've been to them. How many times do you see? How much effort does it go into inviting all the press corps come to one spot in DC at this one time? Security detail stuff, searching
Mm-hmm.
people, all to give a brief statement.
Mm-hmm. Right.
And I'm just teaching in general, like, what do I speak about? I mean,
Mm-hmm. How do you feel about
not
the
much in my end.
How do you feel about the president's executive order plan for the inspector general's power?
I'm sorry, you mean the. Sorry, repeat the question, please.
So, the president had released an executive order giving certain powers to inspector generals. What are your thoughts on it? Have you gotten a chance to read over it?
I read over it, but it's mostly for the. I mean, it's an inspector general's thing, so it's mostly going to affect them. Um, well, I personally want to make sure my inspector general has. It seems to be a good memo. I'm not all, but I can't really tell you how well it's going to be since that deals with DOS, so
Mm-hmm.
Department of State, DOS, Homeland Security, and those agencies. I can't tell you how they're going to react with it or how it's going to operate under them. And on the DOJ side of it, I believe that display system will do or will be sufficient. Seems to be sufficient.
All right. All right. We have one more question for you here. Trying to find it. Do you plan on having a lot of staff added on to the DOJ? We obviously have seen that there are not a boatload of people, obviously, especially as such as compared to law enforcement agencies and departments and stuff. But does the DOJ plan on keeping the numbers pretty tight and small, or do you guys plan on having a larger outreach in terms of numbers?
Well, first, the DOJ is always welcome to. Well, how do I put this? Okay. Generally speaking, the DOJ has never really been large. There's only a number of times. From my experience, I've only seen it being large under Attorney General Hayes Anarchy. But the issue was under Hayes Anarchy's administration, tenure as Attorney General was this. If you look at the hierarchy in the DOJ, you see a lot of spots. And in the relative activities of the department, a lot of them's not needed. Which is why, in my first act as Attorney General, what I did was trim down unnecessary roles. For example, uh, Assistant Attorney Generals, right? Those things. No real point to them. Like, you don't really need those. And when it comes to, the high, like, and when it comes to the U.S. attorneys and the assistant attorney generals and the public defenders, it's just better to have a public defender in the public defender's office and the U.S. attorney in the U.S. attorney's office, and those people report to me. The issue in the past was with the DOJ was a bunch of needless and redundant hierarchy, and that's, in all honesty and being transparent here, not needed. Which is why most of my, like, for example, the Solicitor General, right? He deals
Mm-hmm.
with primarily one type of thing: Supreme Court cases, or if I need him to step in a lower case. That's it. He doesn't get much action. My Associate Attorney General, I if I need him to do something, I get him to do it. He doesn't have many daily day-to-day assignments. Deputy Attorney General, relatively the same aspect. Somewhat. He's a little bit more, then generally more involved.
Mm-hmm.
But Chief of Staff, I write my own stuff, so Chief of Staff isn't really does a lot of work anyways, position. So all the real mutt and glut in the agency, well, not much, you get what I mean, like
Yeah.
the sweat and the nails and the work,
Mm-hmm.
is done by the U.S. Attorney's Office and the Public Defender's Office, as it should be,
Mm-hmm.
which is why those agencies still run it. Now, I give each person, I give each position its own privileges. Like, some people can have a deputy, some people can have a chief of staff, some people can have a office personnel, and the public defenders in U.S. Attorney's Office, their recruitment policy is they could recruit practically whoever they want, practically being the keyword there,
Mm-hmm.
notwithstanding, so of course going through the background checks and all that, and they can office personnel, they just can't allow themselves to become too unbalanced. So I don't want 10 public defenders and 3 prosecutors, or 10 prosecutors and 0 public defenders, or something like that,
Right.
imbalance. They have to balance them out and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
That's how you keep the system, from looking, biased and
Right. Of course.
whatnot. And
Continue.
so, and those offices are open to have a lot of office personnel, but to fit very strictly back to the question though, DOJ doesn't. We don't really need too many staff. I mean, we don't really have that many cases to I mean, in terms of the prosecuting, and this is generally a good thing, we generally don't need too many prosecutors because we have not really too many cases at the same time. And if we have enough cases at the same time, we have 3 assistant U.S. attorneys, 2 of them really active, a U.S. attorney, a chief of staff, an associate chief of staff, and a solicitor general, not including myself. So
Hmm.
I think the sum of two, three, like 6, 7 people could handle a number of cases. And again, the public defense office, not really the same thing, but public
Right.
defense office does handle cases as well, and not everyone, and that's the difference though. Not everyone gets a counsel from the public defense office. A lot of
Right.
people get counsel from a friend or someone they want to pay and whatnot, and so
Hmm. That is
or
true.
pro bono work. So they don't even need to draw sources from the public defense office. But when you prosecute a case, you always have to draw resources from the prosecuting office. So
Right.
we don't, and DOJ doesn't really reach out because it doesn't really need staff. And without many cases, unless you have someone who's like, and the issue again, so to say even more, the issue is if you have too many people as well and not enough cases to fill the work,
Yeah.
people want advancements.
Hmm.
You get the idea of, well, if I advance more people through the middle and higher ranks, I can open up the lower ranks or slow, or crunch down the numbers and give more cases to more people and
Hmm.
make them feel useful. And you tend to do that, and you don't want that because when you have a bunch of people, assistant attorney generals or this or that, and all these overranking, ranks,
Hmm.
it becomes a chain of command seems burdensome and pointless. And
Yeah.
then you get to another aspect of, and this happened in the past too. You have all these people who become assistant attorney general, associate attorney, all of these people, and then they given free ranks in MPD and FBI's
Yeah.
administrative role. This happened under the Hayes Anarchy administration.
Hmm.
Because you
Well,
had like what, an assistant attorney general to oversee this like oversee the FBI and MPD, and
right.
then you had associate attorney general. It's a bunch of uselessness.
Well, we have seen that you guys are a lot, how do I put it, a lot politically less corrupt than former attorney generals have been with regards to them appointing people into high positions that maybe were not the most qualified. We have seen a lot of people work their way up, and that is something that we obviously support very much. Um, but yeah, we would like to thank you for coming on the show. It's been an honor having you on, and hope to see you again soon.
All right, thank you very much. It's been my pleasure.
Thank you.